You're welcome to another episode of the Cyber Podcast brought to you by DOH Africa. Yeah, today I have another brilliant guest with me. His name is Olumayowa, and we'll be talking about automating security compliance in Devops. Hi, Olumayowa.
Hi, Emily. Thank you for having me on your podcast today.
Okay, you're welcome.
It's quite a privilege being on here today to speak to the wonderful IMD from the Diary of Akas. Thank you very much.
Okay, before we start, can you give us a little intro about yourself and what you do?
Okay, so thank you very much, IMD. My name is Olumayowa, like I said the other time, and I currently work as a DevOps engineer. So a quick run to us. I started my career. I started as a network engineer, more of access network. From being an access network engineer, I moved to doing a bit of network security. And I actually worked in an environment that was fully, security compliant. It was more of an ISP. It was actually an ISP. So security was more of our forte where I used to work in. So from being an network security engineer, I from there transitioned into submarine network engineering. I did subsea for about quite some number of years, focusing on West Africa. Let me just say Africa mainly, Africa and some part of Europe, just moving traffic back and forth for some certain providers. Yeah. So that's it basically. Then afterwards, I can say things I got bored. But yeah, I just wanted to do something different for myself again, and I was like, you know what? I already started learning. I already started playing some certain tools while I was doing subsea, because sometimes we had these vendors I had to work with, and those vendors, there were so many tools they brought on site for us to migrate some of our services that were on-prem to the cloud. So while seeing them working, I was fascinated with the tools, and I was like, you know what, I think I want to do something different, which was why I started doing DevOps. Yeah, and DevOps and a bit of, sometimes I play with security as well, but yeah, I'm fully invested in DevOps, and I might try to probably just go back to network engineering when I feel like I have to go back to network engineering. But yeah, that's me basically.
Alright, fantastic. Before we dive in, I want you to just tell us about automating security compliance in the context of DevOps.
Okay, so when we talk about compliance is actually something I think a lot of Nigerians don't take serious. Let me just start from that perspective, that point of view. Most people just do things anyhow, not thinking there are actually some certain guidelines or certain rules that govern whatever they do or things they do. That is compliance. They also like to say, okay, let's do it this way, do that this way, not even thinking, okay, this, whatever you're doing, there could be some certain consequences. Might be either with the government, or we could be with anybody. Another people can come and just say, okay, why is this way? Why is this that way? So basically, that's just what compliance is all about. So now you're trying to now have processes in place without having to do more of these manual compliances. Like I speak to people within the DevSecOps environment a lot, right? There's a lot of tools you have to put in place to just say, okay, this certain code you're trying to push, or this pipeline you're building, there are actually some problems within this pipeline that doesn't meet, or there are some certain things within this pipeline that doesn't meet a regulatory body will flag if they have to get into the system, or they have to see what the system looks like, or maybe there's some certain information that's going to be leaked, or going to be released, or going to be seen that people are not meant to see it. So there are actually some tools in place that will just flag those tools and say, okay, this social application, this API, this particular code, if this code goes into production, maybe customer's behavior is going to be exposed. Anybody across the internet could pick it up. So doing that manually might not suffice, because one, there's actually possibility of human error or being overlooked. But having automation tools in place to do this compliance checks for you, it makes it easier to flag those problems. And when those problems are being flagged, you can easily correct those problems before your code goes into production. So I think that's just a very easy way, or let me say layman's explanation, to just break down compliance, and compliance. Mainly.
Okay. I want you to share an example of a time when a compliance issue caused major challenges and what you learned from it.
Okay, I think there was a point in time where I was doing a bit of consulting for a startup. They were going to launch an application that was custom, and so they were under so much pressure. And when I looked into, because I actually introduced them to what I call social coding. Social coding is having so many people look at the code together. Everyone comes together. Okay, let's look at the code. Let's see if there are problems before you start doing the whole CI/CD and everything. Let's even try and look at the codes. And so I think within that period, everyone was actually a lot of pressure. I think maybe investors were putting so much fire on them. Like, oh, when is the product going to be launching into the market? When is it going to come out? So everyone was under pressure and because of the delivery time and all that. And there are just so many problems when we have to start looking at the whole application. When we start having to do a lot of testing, I saw that there was so much problem that within the application that would actually leak a lot of confidential information, like customer information, to anyone who has access to the internet, majorly. So I mean, it was a big, I won't just say red flag, it was actually a big problem. That if that application had gone into production at that point in time, it was going to cost them a lot. It was definitely going to cost them a lot because they probably would have to be battling a lawsuit and all of other things. So it was actually a very big problem then, and we had to just say, okay, at this point in time, we need to go back to the drawing board and see. We need to what's the government saying, what's the regulatory board? How is this meant to be sorted out? What are the ways you need to look into just to make sure that you're not on the bad side of the government, and whatever license you're getting, your license doesn't get revoked. So we have to just sit down, look into it, and everything we have to just put so much work in place, and you're able to look more into the regulatory, the whole compliance thing and all that, and everything was sorted out, and they were still able to launch the application within the said launch date.
Ooh, sounds like a tough problem. So, what did you learn from it?
Coming from an environment where compliance was something we didn't joke with, I just felt newer startups. So I think what I learned basically was startups need to start looking into taking things like that serious. And I feel as a consultant or as an engineer, you shouldn't just look at the time frame of when your application wants to get RFS. You shouldn't just say, okay, because your application has to go RFS this date, you need to mess things up. So I think that was part of the problems we had then. They were more concerned about RFS, so ready for service, and I was more concerned about compliance. You have to comply with whatever the government or the regulatory body has to say. So I think I just felt like when things like that, when you're trying to launch an application, or when I'm trying to consult for any startup trying to look into startup building an application or pushing a product into the market, compliance should probably be the first thing I should discuss with them. Instead of integrating compliance into the existing framework midway, I think the framework at which the application of the product is going to be built or is going to be released into the market should be that compliance infused right from the ground up. So we won't have a problem of saying, okay, the application is maybe, or the product is midway into production and you're just thinking of compliance. So if you start ground up, I think compliance should be part of what they should look into from the planning phase. When you look into that from the planning phase, it helps you to be able to not have issues when your product is about to go to market, or when the product is about to be RFS, that's ready for service. I think first thing first, when consulting or when working on any product or any application, the first thing one should consider during the planning phase is compliance. Because you don't want people's confidential information or documents to be out there on the internet or being able to be stolen by the bad guys and being sold on the dark web.
Great. Those are great takeaways. Sounds like this experience really transformed how your team approached compliance moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I want us to look into a time where automating compliance helped uncover a critical vulnerability or misconfiguration in a startup that wasn't even in production yet.
Mm, okay, so that yeah, there was this startup I was actually consulting by. I don't want to mention it. Was just I think it was in 2020 about. So we were just having conversations, and I was actually on site, and I had to look into the whole configuration. And because like I said, where I was coming from, where I used to work, has actually helped me in like journey with anything compliance when it comes to compliance, NDPR, PCI DSS and things like that, the ISO standard and all that. So it has actually helped me to be able to understand so many things within that whole pipeline. I was consulting for this startup then, and it was still in the build stage. They were developing, it was actually a mobile application to simplify payments and savings for users, which means they were handling very sensitive financial data, or they were going to be handling very sensitive financial data. I always start to let them know that it's actually very important. Because when I looked at it, and I was like, when I looked into their and actually, I had to bring someone else to come look into the code base with me and show everything. And I could see that from what I could see, and when we had to run their whole code base through some certain tools, so that it wasn't going to adhere to what we call the NDPR, which is the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation, and PCI DSS, which is for the different card industry. And those are like things one needs to follow. For the fact that you want to be handling anything payments, processing credit cards, processing debit cards, and anything that is just related to payment, those are like regulations, or those are like frameworks that needs to be followed. But this, when we ran the code base and when we looked into the application and everything, looked into the approach chart and saw the whole whatever they had for the application, we said there was going to be a lot of trouble, which means there were going to be in a lot of problems with the government, because it didn't look like the whole thing was adhering to the NDPR and PCI DSS, which are very crucial. And because the team was under intense pressure, we had to just tell them that if you guys had to push this to the market, there's going to be a lot of problem, because when when anyone tries to infiltrate your system, there's a possibility of being able to get so many information like customer's BVN, customer's NIN details, even if you bank account details, debit card details, and so many other things. So many other things, and just by getting the NIN details alone, you might be able to have access to so many other things, maybe like customer's health information, and the whole lot of things would just be accessible. So that's just telling me that there's still so much work to do for you guys. That was just them, and they were able to now figure things out themselves, and we went back to drawing board and ready to fix things.
Ooh, that's quite alarming. What could have happened if this went unnoticed?
If we went unnoticed, so it could have actually been very disastrous. Even though they were not in production yet. This is when it had been exploited during the testing stage. Could have led to a massive data breach, and how data breach can be, like all these news about data breach and all that. So for a massive data breach, power of national information could have been exposed, which is actually a lot of problem. And that would have definitely destroyed trust before the app is even launched. Imagine an app that you're planning to launch, you just stay in testing phase, and you maybe onboard your first 100 customers, and the next thing you hear is, there was a data breach, and during the data breach, a lot of information were exposed, and nobody will want to definitely trust that kind of application, that could that kind of, and even beyond that, they were going to face several penalties under NDPR and PCI DSS. These are like things that I feel a lot of people don't really know about it, and people need to still read more on NDPR. I know for Europe we have GDPR, so I think people need to read up on things like that to even understand how to handle sensitive information better. And also, even in extreme cases, CBN, if they have gotten a license, CBN might actually probably have blocked their license application and not even allow them get their license application and all that. So that's why we had to just cut the whole thing, and that was it. So they went back to the drawing board, had to look at everything they had to do. Because they also got some penetration testers on board as well to just do a bit of vulnerability testing and assessment, and they were able to. So vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, so we're able to figure out where the problems are and how they were able to tackle the problems. And that was my own. Afterwards, because I usually sign on disclosure for things like that. So that was my own afterwards just moved on, and it wasn't my business anymore after the whole conversation.
Okay. You mentioned penalties recently for non-compliance.
Yeah.
So, have you ever been a part of any organization that faced penalties for non-compliance?
Nope. I've never been part of an organization. Besides like consulting for startups, I used to work with multinational. They don't just anything compliance, and ISMS was something from time to time which actually helped everybody within the organization to understand cybersecurity. They helped me to understand cybersecurity coming from the red risk and compliance and so many other things. So that's actually infused me that security spirit in me, or that mindset or mentality in me. So that's helped me to be able to work with most startups I'm consulting for, most startups I'm talking to be able to. The first question I'm consulting for, the first question I talk to or ask them is about security. Because security is actually something I feel is quite important. So I talk to you about security, and if I see you're not keen on securing your platform or your infrastructure, I'll work with you. I won't just say because you're going to pay me money, and because I feel at the same point in time to my own integrity is actually on the line, and I've been in the industry for quite a number of years. I've been in the industry for about 12 years now. So I don't want to just jeopardize 12 years in the industry with my name being on a certain application that was involved in data breach that could have been avoided, or involved with an application with a product that could have avoided that data breach because it was something that could easily have been identified, but just said to just okay, you know what, anything that wants to happen should happen. So I've actually not been involved in any. I've always been avoiding that one way or the other. Most of these guys too. I think people are not getting security compliant these days as well.
Okay. This same issue on adopting automated compliance. Has there ever been an event where it caused friction in your team?
Oh yes, there was a time I used to frequent Cote d'Ivoire a lot. I used to work in Cote d'Ivoire. I worked in Cote d'Ivoire, and during that period, so there's something I like to do. I like to meet techies in every city I go to. So I met a few techies, and we had conversations, very interesting conversations. Later on, one of them talked to me that he was building. He and his other colleagues were building this particular product. It was an edtech product, and they wanted me on board just because you've been in the industry for a while, you understand the whole lot of things. I'm gonna have to do that. I just talk to people about products. I like anything products. So we go on a call and they're like, okay, you know what? We're bringing you on board to consult for us from the ground up to application launch. So I go on it, and this is why I still in the build stage. So what they want to go to too much information what they were doing. So this platform was going to be handling sensitive data, personal details, academic records, even parents' contact information, which is so much. So, but they're not complying with the. First question I asked them, like I said, was compliance. But they're not complying with what I saw wasn't complying with the Cote d'Ivoire's data protection law. Because one thing I usually do is things like that. I like to sit down and read data protection laws just to be sure we're not going to be in problems. We're not paying any fines and all that. And they want to go, bro, can't do this. So I have to sit them down, try to educate them that if we don't do it this way, you guys are going to get in trouble. And if you get in trouble, definitely going to be none of my business, because I'll just go back to Lagos. So a part of the team was ready to go the compliance way. Then another part of the team was just like, bro, we don't have enough time. Then one guy won't just come from Lagos and come and tell us what to do and all that. So I reached out to my guys again. I have a bunch of friends in the industry. I was like, okay, we had conversations. I spoke to someone who was a lawyer as well. He brought some other people into the conversation. We had spoke about the data protection laws, spoke about everything, and there are too many loopholes, there are too many. So because they've actually paid too much money to the product designer and some other guys on the team, it was more like they have to get the product designer from outside of the project to come and develop the product for them. So they didn't want to go back to him and say, okay, there's going to be a law. But then they are telling that, bro, if we don't do it this way, if you don't, there has to be a lot of changes to your codes and all that, you're going to get in trouble. So on the long run, I had to now get more people to give them that orientation and probably just, I could say, educate them on data protection laws. They go educate them on data protection laws, and on the long run, they now saw it from my own perspective that okay, this guy is actually saying what is right. Later on, also, I suggested implementing automated compliance tools early in the development stage, which they were like, no, they were not interested in initially. But after a while, when they saw that okay, the first year was going to slow down their pace and all that because they've been working on all that. And their development teams were quite concerned. They said it was going to slow down their pace. So they slowed down their pace. Then the operation team came and said it was going to be more like extra responsibility on them and all that. There were so many other things to do. I said that you can't just be building applications like this and not have a security team. You need to have a security team that is meant to come and review these things manually. But if they try to start reviewing this thing manually, it's going to be overwhelming. So what you guys need to do now is you need to bring people on board. Like I spoke about DevSecOps the other time. You need to bring people on board that are actually going to, their own role is just to make sure that you're compliant. But on the long run, there might still be a bit of human error. There might be some certain parts that might slip off these guys, which is why you need to automate your processes. When you automate your processes, you don't need to put too much stress. All you just need to just do is, when the time you're running your code through these certain tools, or you're running your platform or your CI/CD through these certain tools, it flags it and okay, oh, this there is likely to be a breach here. There's likely to be a breach, and there might be like maybe financial information is going to be exposed. Things like that. I don't know if that makes any sense. So when they say from my own perspective, they were able to say, okay, yeah, let's do this, and that was about a while. It took a long time, a lot back and forth, a lot of dragging, and then afterwards I did that. I left everything to them. I know they're still doing very fine now. This was an quite recent, but they're doing very fine for themselves now.
Okay, I want us to also look at a time where the same issue caused collaboration within your team.
I love automation. I just want to just make sure things automated because there's too many things to get done and can't just sync all the time. It's having to do manual checks. The product was going to is more of a legal. It's actually a product that is for. I mean, what is it for? People or the legal or judiciary or what was it called? Lawyers anyway. We had to sit down. We brought his team on board. I explained a lot of concepts to them from a security standpoint and from a tech standpoint because they are just developers. Everybody is going to write code and all that. You know how people are always excited to just write code and do interesting things. But when I did a few demo for them, explained too many things to them, everybody was quite interested and they were so interested and they were so invested because they saw it like, okay, this thing is actually going to make work easier for them. Unlike the other people who felt like, oh, this is a start trying to do this, it's going to stress them, it's going to do this. But the moment I introduce the concept to them, like, you need to look into ways to automate your workflow, you need to look into ways to automate your compliance and just to make sure that you don't get in trouble. I don't know about other countries, but I know NDPR is actually a big problem. It's actually a big issue, which people really don't see like something serious in Nigeria, but it's very serious. So we looked into it together. The development team came, the other guys from other parts came, the security guys who came. I also had to just explain a lot of things to the security guys, and I was quite surprised that they were all willing to work together. And at the same time, we also, aside fostering unity between the team, they were also all willing to learn from each other. So I think it was actually a win for me before I got the project. So it was actually, I saw it as a win for me.
Okay, so did this new approach, did it really make a difference during development?
Yeah, it did, because it was something they were looking to build. They were building from ground up. So for them, all they had to do was just to integrate these things from the beginning of the project, implement everything, automated everything. Because I'm very big on automation. I like automating things. So they were quite interested in everything. And the funniest thing was this whole thing actually made their project very seamless and reduced the time to launch the product to the market. Because I didn't have to start looking for security vulnerabilities and all that. The tools and the frameworks were able to just pick out all the places where there are vulnerabilities and everything that could cause problems within that particular application that was going to be launched to the market. So everything it made it seamless for them, which was what the other guys where I was talking to initially didn't see. They didn't see it that way. It was easy for these guys to be able to think that, like, oh, okay, if we do this way, okay, oh, this guy is right. If we do this way, do that, we do this way. It's actually going to make much more easier and seamless for us. So they did buy into that early enough from the beginning of the project, and made everything seamless for them. So reduce fatigue and all. Then it helped everybody to be able to work together for them to bond, and it was actually a very interesting project. Launching the product. Yeah.
All right. That's quite impressive. Are there any lessons or key takeaways from that scenario?
So I think lessons and key takeaways for that. They were willing to listen anyway. I think for me, for lessons, I think people need to speak more about security and automating security processes or security standards, or even automating compliance. And people also, developers, I think for me, I usually say developers need to understand compliance more. People writing codes and all that. Most of the developers I meet sometimes just want to just talk about writing codes. Okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. But you need to also look around wherever you're building. Okay, you're building an application that is going to work in Nigeria. Have you read up on compliance? Do you know, okay, this application you're writing or this application you're building, is it going to violate any rule or any law? Is it going to violate any something? Then, so I think, so that's what I just think. I should look more into understanding compliance and not just jumping into writing codes. Yeah, interested in writing codes, but also understand compliance and find ways to just automate things. Automating things just makes life easier for you. Even you're good already for service timing, it reduces drastically, and it takes off stress from you. So I think that's what I just feel so far. Just which actually did work for this stuff about the one focusing more on building product for people, building product for lawyers.
Okay, thank you so much, Mayowa. That's been an educative and broad discussion on automating security compliance and DevOps. And you're welcome.